Hello and welcome to another edition of Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, where Team Needham discusses everything healthcare. I am your host, Shawn Needham, along with my wonderful wife, Janet, and we are streaming live from the Moses Lake Professional Pharmacy Podcast Studio. And we are super excited to have Kourtney Chichilitti back on our show. I don't know, what is this, the fourth or fifth time, Kourtney, or something?
I've lost count, but I love seeing you guys. So I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me again.
Kourtney is a fellow rogue pharmacist, and she believes in a lot of the crazy stuff like we do. So that's why we like having her on. So Kourtney, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background, and then we'll start getting into the details of the subjects today.
Yes. So I am a pharmacist of 20 years. Most of my career has been in mom and pop retail pharmacy. And just recently, back this past August, I have left pharmacy completely to work in the functional medicine space, working one-on-one with my clients, which I love, to help them find true healing. You know, I was in a space where every day people coming in for prescriptions, a lot of time wanted to intervene, seeing a better way and seeing the, vortex that people get stuck in. They get on one prescription and then we start treating side effects with prescriptions. And it just becomes a pattern people can't get out of. So not only was I seeing that, I have my own health, journey that we can talk about that really kind of opened my eyes and got me started on this path that led me to where I am now.
You were on SSRIs, antidepressants, for like 20 years or something?
16 years. Yep.
Right. And you got talked, the story's so familiar. Whether you're a nurse, a doctor, or a pharmacist, you get talking to this stuff when you're in pharmacy school or going to school, right? Because this is the way we treat diseases, right?
Absolutely. There was no other way. And it just made sense too, as I was going through my pharmacy education and, what are these random things that I'm having where I'm getting short of breath? I have numb hands and feet. What's going on? Went to the doctor. Oh, that's a panic attack. Okay. How do we treat that? SSRI. Okay. Took it. Great. It fixed it. Was on it for the longest time. Stopped when I was trying to get pregnant with my son. Shortly after that, panic attack started back one day driving. Oh, heck no. Went right back to it and was stuck in the cycle of, this is the only thing that works to get rid of the panic attack. This is what I learned in school. This is what's working for me. And 16 years went by before I decided to say, well, hey, wait a second. What are there other options? Like, why is this happening to me? Sure, life stressors, hey, anxiety, depression, things happen, but why? I would be doing nothing stressful at the time, and all of a sudden I would get these little attacks that didn't make sense.
Right. So the answer is you have a drug deficiency. So
right. Right. I was short in Celexa. I just needed some more Celexa. Right. Fixed everything.
Exactly. Okay. So fast forward now many years later, and you're a functional medicine pharmacist, which means that you are getting to the root of the problem instead of just masking symptoms with drug therapy. So tell us a little bit about mycotoxins and detox.
So it kind of started, it's interesting that like mycotoxins and detox is where I'm at now in my practice, where not only have I helped myself, but so many clients. But it's funny how it seems like I've been chasing these things to help with my anxiety symptoms for, the first 16 years it was SSRIs, but I don't know, about maybe 9-10 years ago when I started to dive into how do I get off of this SSRI. And that started with CBD products, professional grade, low THC, so that it was it was more CBD based, cannabinoids. So it was taking that in place of an SSRI, which was great. And that helped me. And it would be still a Band-Aid. If I didn't have that and I forgot to take it, that feeling would come back. So it was like, okay. It wasn't until I started to dabble into more probiotics, the gut-brain axis, what strains of bacteria in our gut are helping with neurotransmitters. 90% of our serotonin lives in the gut, trying to heal it from that aspect, learning about adaptogenic herbs and how that calms our cortisol levels, which, control stress and anxiety. So, it was finding different products that, that would help keep my anxiety at bay. But at the same time, if I didn't have those products, or, this is control, when things are fine and you don't really need them anymore, but then you don't take them and then you feel those little feelings creeping up. And it was like a cycle of almost chasing different, even though it wasn't traditional medicine, it was holistic medicine that I was using. At the same time, it was still like, why am I getting this anxiety? Like, why am I not fixing it with all of these other things? Why am I still having bouts of it? So it wasn't until a few years ago, connecting the dots, really working with my patients and looking at myself and my background, that I had such an extreme exposure to mold for most of my life. My childhood home, then I didn't live there anymore. My workplace, the pharmacy that I was at for the last 10 years of my career was an old building. And when I say that there was like mold growing up the walls from the basement, they had the old French drains in the floor. When I would walk in the door, my face would just like, I just had a histamine release all day. And I knew what it was, but I didn't really understand mold toxicity. I was kind of just starting to dabble in the functional medicine space when I was there, and I didn't really understand the magnitude of what was happening to me when I was storing these things in my body and in my tissue, and what it led to, a couple years later, and then even a couple years after that.
Janet, what question do you have for Kourtney?
So Kourtney, it's funny that we look back and we see the straight line and we zigzag through our lives and we get to that point. But so I'm assuming that you just thought, oh, well, I'm exposed. It's fine. I'm going to be okay. But what about the clients that have like a massive like hit? I mean, because yours was gradual, right? What about those that you see that, get really, really sick? Is that how you put it together? Is that how we piece it together? Like it's something in their environment or?
So a lot of times it's something in the environment, and a lot of times, people don't want to dive into labs. So a lot of times we have to suspect. We just have to kind of treat like, let's do some detox. Let's use some binders. Let's use some herbs that would kill that off. But it's tricky because sometimes it's not the mold itself, but when we have things like mold and heavy metals in our system, that's when parasites like to come and hang around. And I know parasites are not a sexy topic, but they exist. And that's when we have these different acidic environments in our body, that's where they like to come out and play, and things they like to eat off of. So it's not always just dealing with mold. It's also dealing with like the co-infections of mold and the other things that it brings. So yes, we can do a urinalysis and we can look for mold in a patient and we can treat it and know what we're doing. But a lot of times when I just start working with my patients and we really just start to dive into detox, like, okay, I don't want to run the expensive functional labs, but here's my symptoms. And it looks like classic detox, whether it's mold, heavy metals, whether it's environmental toxins, parasites, all of the things. It's kind of like, let's just start to one by one, start to eradicate things from the body. And then when people start to see symptoms relieve, that's when we know, okay, what are we pulling? Are we pulling mold? Probably a plethora of things. It's kind of goes hand in hand with other toxins.
And how do we detox the body?
So many different ways. Binders are wonderful, binders with different herbs that kill off. But the biggest thing that I think is overlooked by so many people is lymphatic drainage. Lymphatic drainage it's so simple, but so complex, right? Like it's as simple as just massaging different areas where we know the heavy lymph nodes are, saunas, vibration plates, dry brushing, things to get the lymph moving. Our lymph nodes get stagnant. And this is where disease happens. This is where things settle. This is where inflammation happens. And this is where disease begins. So whether it's about detox or it's just about healthy lifestyle, rebounding exercises, just keeping active, all helps improve lymphatic drainage. But that, in my opinion, is probably the most important thing when we start to look at different binders to pull, these toxins that bury themselves in the tissue.
So what are some of those binders?
My favorites are like humic and fulvic acid. They help bind more gently versus like a charcoal binder that can kind of deplete other, minerals and micronutrients. So they're my favorite ones to use when I'm working with people on detox. but it all depends. I kind of switch things up. I create a very bio-individualized regimen for people depending on, lifestyle exposure. And, sometimes when it looks more environmental, there's different binders that are specific to that as well. So, but it's in different herbs like that you want to use to kill off. And then of course, replenishing with probiotics that are specific to what it is. So it's very customized to people and what they have going on, whether it's symptoms or symptoms and labs.
And how long do they usually have to do the detox?
So I'll give myself as an example. I'm still working on detox. I have tested myself multiple times for mycotoxins and it still comes up. It's getting less and less. I don't do it all at once. I give my body breaks at different times. I'm using different protocols. I always like to use myself as a guinea pig too, to try what works faster, what feels the best. But of course, nobody's the same. The way one person reacts, some people can tolerate things versus others. Sometimes it's really hard to detox if they're not testing their home or work environment for mold and it's still present. You can really mess yourself up if you're detoxing and then you're re-exposed. You get like Herxheimer where you're actually, having a detox effect to it where you're getting yourself sicker, or you could, present obviously, like with flu-like symptoms, even anxiety, that kind of stuff.
Well, that's one of the things about, anything that we detox from, we have to make sure that we don't, re-inoculate ourselves, so to speak. We had to eliminate those toxins, and sometimes that can be difficult. But that's, I think, one of the most important things of a lot of detox diets or detox programs is they have an elimination diet along with it, and basically you eliminate everything that can have toxins in it, and you go with some just very strict things, like go strict carnivore, for instance, go strict red meat only, and grass-fed, non-GMO, all that kind of stuff, so you don't reintroduce those toxins. And just eliminating that stuff for a week is one way, as long as your body has good detox methods, is one way that you can detox. And then adding some of these binders and stuff are just on top of that.
Is so true. And even like what you're saying, the first thing too is just making sure like your drainage pathways are open. Because a lot of times, like, are you pooping every day? How many times? What does it look like? Are you drinking enough fluids? Are you peeing? Are you sweating? Are you draining your lymphatics? Because if you're pulling these toxins and then you're uptaking them in your body, you're going to feel, worse than before. And then like you're saying, it's great to say, okay, yeah, let's do an elimination diet, and everything you just said, 100%. I'm all about the carnivore diet. I think that's great, especially when you're eating the right ones too, when you're getting them from a good source. But I think a lot of times it's so hard for people to detox. That's why I always say for people to do it under the care of a practitioner, because sometimes it's not as easy as just taking something and feeling a certain way. Sometimes you have to slow down on it. Sometimes people are in a really bad way. And it's not just as easy as throwing some binders and herbs at them and get on your vibration plate and sauna and go for it. Sometimes it requires, more. And then when you're really looking at our world, a lot of people just don't understand how toxic things are. And it's like, as much as I don't want to be like Debbie Downer, doom and gloom, like womp, 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 it's like everything that we do has toxins, and you have to kind of decide on choices, right? Like making the better choice. I just posted something on my Facebook this morning, and it was a reel that I saw. And this doctor was talking about, if you're still drinking bottled water, how you ingest a credit card's worth of plastic every week just by drinking water from a plastic bottle. So, is it something where do I try not to drink from plastic bottles every now and again? I do. That's just one minimal thing of not to mention personal care products and pesticides that are on our fruits and vegetables and organic. Are we cleaning them? All those things we can dive into, but taking a look at even just something as simple as a water source. Where is your water coming from? What's in your water? And even something like plastic, we have a liver that in most cases our livers work. Our livers are built to break down these things and process them. But the problem is that our livers are responsible from everything from sunlight to prescription drugs to emotional stress, physical stress. They're overloaded. Our livers are the most overworked and underpaid organ in the body. And it's just to the point now where our bodies are like, hold on, slow down. Then you add COVID and some vaccinations to the mix, and people's bodies are literally shutting down. And people are coming to me with the craziest things, and they're just like, hey, I've been told by, my 7 specialists that I'm clinically okay, but 90% of my hair is missing, but nobody can give me an answer.
Right.
It's crazy. And I think our bodies are just so overloaded with toxins. And it's like, even when we try, to do the healthy things, the healthy choices still have hidden toxins in them. And of course, even the products that we use, like when something's low fat or low whatever, there's always something to make up for that low fat, low calorie, in a packaged food. Like if it's packaged, it's not good. If you can't read an ingredient, it's not good. It's going and it's doing something bad to your body. Am I saying that I never eat packaged foods or, indulge? No, so of course not, because there's a balance, but it's really all about finding that balance and making the right choices and kind of finding the things that work for you. And that's not always easy for people. You really have to know how to read labels, not just in food, but products too.
Well, what about filters and water? Do you recommend filtering your water?
I do. Right now, what I'm using is I have an ionizer. So I have hydrogen water. I started with reverse osmosis water in the countertop. When I wanted to kind of upgrade, I was drinking bottled water, and for me and my son, and I was like, all right, let's upgrade here. We did reverse osmosis. And then I heard about hydrogen water and the benefits of hydrogen water, because it's literally like you're taking antioxidants into your body, like so many benefits. And I was kind of reading and trying to learn, and I'm like, all right. And at that time I got my water tested, my random, township water. And I learned that I had arsenic in it. And at that point I couldn't look back. So I actually have I have a special filter for the arsenic itself. One for the fluoride, one for chlorine. Like I have specific filters. And then I have the ionizer that makes it, you can change the pH of it. So there's a specific pH that's for, cleaning my produce off at a higher pH versus, a lower pH that I can use to clean the countertops versus, a mid pH to drink or, just clean water or clean my face, that kind of stuff.
So speaking of fluoride, you say you filter out your fluoride.
I do.
Okay, so tell us about fluoride. I thought fluoride was good for us.
No, it's a heavy metal and it hurts your brain.
Right.
Get with it, Shawn.
It was a rhetorical question.
I know it was silly.
Then, mostly by dentists, we've been so suckered into thinking that fluoride is good for our teeth and all that. And it's poison. Fluoride is poison. And don't ever tell a dentist that, because they'll get all over you. But there are, and traditionally for the last 50 years, we've been spiking city water wells with fluoride to make people healthy. But the reality of it is that's not, it's a poison. And there's some, I think there's a state that actually outlawed it now, but I know there's some municipalities that have taken it out of their water because they've understood the dangers of fluoride now.
Yeah, I think it's coming. I think that people are starting to understand. It's starting to become known, because I'll embarrassedly say, when probably the first, 2 years when Christopher was a baby, we didn't have, we took a fluoride test. I gave my son fluoride tablets.
That's what we're taught. Yep.
Like, this is what I did. I was a pharmacist. This is what we did.
Right.
We didn't want my kid to have rotted teeth. Like, this is what we were doing. And yeah, but you don't know if you don't know. And now it's being known and we're talking about it. So it's like, okay, was it known? How's it known? I guess that could be a whole nother topic for another day. But yeah, so it's not good. And it's just another one of those things that when we're talking about detox, that adds to the mix. And it might seem like, oh yeah, a little fluoride here, the liver will take care of it. But when we start to build up heavy metals in the body, in the tissue, it can lead to things like brain fog and chronic fatigue and infertility and hair loss and weight loss resistance and all of the things. So, and that's just one heavy metal, not to mention all of the things that are in our soil of our soil and our crops are just not great anymore. It's not the same soil from when we were younger and from when our parents were younger.
So speaking of that, there's a lot of talk now in the government, the MAHA, Make America Healthy movement. And Jan and I have actually had a podcast on the subject a few weeks ago. The Maha movement has become political and politicized, but I don't know why it has to be political that we want Americans to be healthy. That makes a lot of sense to me. So what are you optimistic that the government is going to help fix these problems?
I'm super optimistic. And as I say that, I'm scared because I might just lose like half of my Facebook friends, because the way I see, like you just said, people talk on social media and make it a political thing and denouncing, literally horrible, wishing death on people who are talking about MAGA because of their political choices. I mean, it's appalling because I don't understand. Yes, exactly. Like, we're trying to make things healthy for us, for our children. Like, I don't look at it like it's political at all. I think it's great that it's becoming, yes, it's happening as our political administration is changing, and we're changing and shifting things, but no, it shouldn't be political. This should be, I can't believe that this hasn't happened sooner, but I'm so happy it is. And I'm so hopeful that there's going to be some good changes coming. There has to be, because the things that I see with people, the sickness, the illness, the chronic illness that is out there is just, it's becoming normal. It's becoming normal for people to come with their hair loss and infertility and things that are like, what? Like autism, these things that like were non-existent however many years ago, and they're just skyrocketing. And it's like, there's a direct correlation, but we're just going to keep ignoring it. It's like, we can't keep ignoring it because people are sick, people are chronically ill.
Right. The sad part to me is that the real human suffering is being thrown out the window for an agenda that has nothing to do with that person that's sitting in front of us. And I think for us that have been working with people in the space of wellness, wanting people to become well, it's like, when do we stop the insanity? When do we decide that 30 years of statins hasn't changed our outcome of heart disease, cardiac disease in our country? It's actually gotten worse. And like you said, with autism, that was rare. And now it's just a common thing. And it's like, basically, unfortunately, what I feel that we're being told when we say there's no discussion is just deal with it, live with it. And to me, that's really pathetic, because we know there's so many people that have bad outcomes and are suffering. And at the end of the day, if it was them, they would want to make something change for themselves. So I'm hopeful, just like you, but for the people that are really angry, I think they just need to put some different shade of glasses on, because I don't care if you're an R or D or a L for libertarian or Green Party or whatever. At the end of the day, we went into healthcare to help people heal, not put some political party on it. So if we can't even have the discussion and say, hey, I think this is a problem, and look at it, then we're not going to be able to move forward.
100%, 150%. I can't agree with you more. Like, all of that. I can't say it any better. You nailed it. It's like this has nothing to do with politics. And if we don't start to step up and change things, it takes it back to what you just said, like, we got into our professions to help people, which is why I walked away from my profession, 6 months ago, because I felt like I wasn't helping people anymore. I felt like I was part of the problem every day when I was going into work, and my day was dealing with insurance companies not covering for things I don't even have to get into that with you guys, but it was literally like a game all day of telling people, like lying to people, oh, I don't have that in stock, because we would literally lose $300 if we gave somebody a drug. Like, it was so disgusting. And it's like, how did this become a profession that was it was the most trusted profession, right? Isn't that what we were called for so long? Pharmacists, the most trusted profession. And I'm like, I think the day that I realized I needed to get out of this was like, I got home and I'm like, I'm just like a big fat liar and disgusted with myself. I literally was like, this is not who I am. This is not what I signed up for. And I can't do this for another day. And I literally didn't. And I can't.
Well, good for you. And do you feel justified at all, considering a lot of your colleagues probably called you crazy, and now that this movement is coming out, that it's probably not very cool to be on I wouldn't want to be working in big pharma right now. That's for sure. So tell us, I mean, do you kind of feel justified at what you've been preaching for the last years now is kind of coming to a head?
I do. I kind of do.
Right.
It's funny because like my dad will just like send me like links of things and be like, Court, you've been saying this for however many years. And I'm like, drop, like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, So absolutely, it does. It does feel like, because for so long you feel like you're looked at as like the woo-woo person that's like, okay, she's the weirdo over there with her water machine and her whatever, taking her supplements and talking about whatever. Like, so I feel like 100%. I feel like it's coming together. It's being talked about more. There's more awareness about it. People are sharing their stories. People are opening their eyes. Let's put it that way. People are opening their eyes. And I think people are just not tolerating it anymore. And I think that that's important because that's the way that true healing is going to begin when people actually admit that there's a problem. That's the first step. And then we can actually problem solve.
Yep.
Well, and when we talk about healing, drugs are not necessarily the answer. Maybe short term for some things, but Shawn Baker, we've quoted this many times, Dr. Shawn Baker, author of the Carnivore Diet book. He did a post that went viral. He talked about, is your doctor a healer or a drug dealer? And I mean, that's really what we need to ask ourselves.
Right.
And I feel, Kourtney, I feel sorry. I don't feel sorry for them because they put themselves in that place, but I feel sorry for doctors and pharmacists that are just drug dealers because they are going to be left behind, because there's always going to be that population, and they can go home at night and not feel good about themselves by giving drugs to people. But there's a big set of our population now that they want to be healthy, and they know that drugs aren't the answer. So, I appreciate pharmacists like yourself that are stepping out and actually helping people fix problems instead of just treat symptoms with drugs.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like, I would have gotten out a lot sooner. I'm a single mom, as you know, and, it's as a pharmacist trying to get out of that. It felt like such a long process for me because I wasn't in alignment with what I was doing anymore. And it was funny because I still was the, woo-woo pharmacist that everybody laughed and made fun of in the pharmacy, because I would step up there and say, okay, you're getting an antibiotic here. You need a probiotic. Oh, you're going to take that statin. I think you're kind of silly, but here's some CoQ10 so that you don't get those cramps in your legs, but I was always trying to still help people, even though, let's face it, there's a time and a place, like you said, for medications, acute illnesses. I, believe that wholly. And I felt like I was helping people in a certain capacity, but I feel like there was so many people too that I would try to interject and start to have the functional conversation. And there were so many people that were grateful. And there was a lot of people that were like, yeah, shut up, lady, just give me my drug and just back off. And I still was me. I still did what I could to help people in that capacity. But at the end of the day, it just didn't feel good. It didn't feel good at all.
It's very liberating to get out of the system and realize you're not controlled by insurance companies anymore, and that you can work directly with the patient to make them healthy.
It's so true. And it's so liberating, and it's so rewarding. It just,
yes.
I feel like just the shift that I have made now just makes me feel like I'm where I belong. Like, I feel like I'm actually like, it's the best feeling in the world when, when one of my clients texts me and tells me that they're feeling better from a protocol they started a couple of weeks back. And like, just actually like making a difference and moving the needle and helping people heal. It's just such a great feeling to know that you can do that. And, there's tools out there to do it, and it's not drugs.
So speaking of tools out there to do it, we're going to stream your website here. And if anybody has any questions, is this the best way to get a hold of you?
Yes, my website, you can connect with me on there. My email is Kourtney Chick, KOURTNEYCHIC @gmail. You can connect through there for sure, but you can definitely hit the contact link on there and touch base, and we can set up a consultation and chat about how I can help you.
And what is your website?
It is wellness-solution.co.
Awesome. Awesome. So as we wrap this podcast up, Kourtney, tell us what you have a passion for.
I am loving helping people with detox, and really not just detoxing, yes, protocols with binders and all of that good stuff, but really helping people learn how to live a healthy lifestyle to detox, really learning about different products and learning how to teach people to decipher between them, and lymphatic drainage, how important that is to so many things, because I know how much of an impact it made in my own life, from somebody who was not feeling well and was having the chronic illness to now feeling so much better and feeling like I have my life back. So for me, just anybody I can help give that back to is just a blessing to me.
Absolutely love it, Kourtney. So thank you for being on our podcast today. You've helped us realize our goal, which is to educate and empower individuals to take charge of their own health. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me.
And thank you, listeners and viewers, for tuning into Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham. Tune in Wednesday on our midweek podcast, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you for listening.